Oh boy, today's discussion should be a pretty good one. Recently, let's just cut straight into this one here. Recently, a new feature was added in Season 12 to Overwatch 2 called Wave Respawns. I think this was pioneered by Gavin, who did the new rank system, which actually has been pretty nice. I don't think it's better than the SR system, but I think from a feature standpoint, this system has way more features to it that are really, really good. I just like seeing like my old numbers go up. That's a personal thing, though, and I'm not going to enforce my personal opinion on everyone else. The new rank system is definitely way better than the first one, and they deserve a lot of credit for it. But they introduced this new feature called Wave Respawns, which essentially like forces players to spawn in together. According to Blizzard, this has been a big success, and I'm going to challenge their thinking a little bit and give my honest thoughts on some of the clear concerns I have with Wave Respawn, some things of the game that I think have been made a little bit worse, actually. I'm not slamming the entire idea. I want to be clear about that. I just think it's a little bit too good right now. I'd like to see the dial tuned back on, especially on modes like Clash. I've had a couple Koth games where they've gotten an entire team fight. They've gotten an extra team fight that they should not have had because of Wave Respawns. It's literally given players a chance to get back into the game for free when they haven't actually made any proper decisions. They've actually made incorrect decisions, and they get rewarded or bailed out of making bad decisions. And it seems like, just to be honest with you, like Overwatch 2 has really just dumbed down this game. It's made way more play for you things. The gameplay loop is way more one-dimensional. There's way less player agency, and personally, I don't think that's a good direction for the game to go. I'm not saying Wave Respawns are the end-all, be-all for these things, but let's get into what Gavin said. I'm going to talk about some things that I think should be improved. Let me make this clear. I don't think they should remove the system, but I do think it's too strong right now. So let's talk about this. Here's what Gavin said on Twitter. He said, "I'm happy to report that Wave Respawn has reduced the number of one-sided matches even more than Group Respawn did. The number of one-sided matches in quick play has seen another 7 to 8% reduction in total rate since the data we showed in our last director's take. Just as before in quick play, this is affected by rank. For competitive play, the news is even better because a rank reset would normally cause one-sided matches to increase for a couple of weeks. But Wave Respawn's effect was so significant, and this is where things should get alarming. Potentially, again, we'll get to it. The Wave Respawn's effect was so significant that we had 4 to 5% fewer one-sided matches in competitive at the beginning of Season 12 than we had at the end of Season 11, meaning that Wave Respawn makes a bigger difference than a ranked reset. I'm excited to see how big of a total difference we made in competitive play once the uncertainty we see with the rank reset is cleared. We're so thankful to all of you for the thoughtful feedback this helped us improve this system over time." Okay, so let me be clear about what I say here. I'm not saying the system is bad necessarily. I'm not saying it should go away altogether. I just think it's way too strong personally. I'm pretty sure how it works is like if you die within like 6 seconds of another player, like 6 seconds of their timer, your respawn gets grouped in with them. That number should get cut in half. There's been so many times where like either a Clash fight gets stalled out together, like how you position for your next fight matters based on the timing of the respawns. Like, respawn timing is one of the most important things in the game at the skill ceiling. And if you automatically make everybody spawn together, on some maps, your potential to spawn camp a player goes away completely. Not because they actually did anything right, but just because the game is respawning them together automatically, right? There was one fight where we were like at 80% on Koth, and we were chasing down staggers, and I wait to kill the last person at around 85, 86%. But because that player ended up dying within 6 seconds of someone else, which, unfortunately one of my teammates killed them and I couldn't stagger them myself, right? They ended up getting a good respawn. So 4 of the squishies spawned in at once together, and the ball spawned in early. The ball touched once, ran away, and then all 4 of them came back and got a clean team fight. And that's giving them another fight for free, not because they did anything right, but just because, again, like they honestly got punished. They died. They should have been punished for this and lose the game. Instead, because it was a 6-second window to jump in their respawn, they were able to get an entire new fight for free. And the reason why you want to stagger those players in that situation is because your fight percentage to win 1 5v1, right? And then there's 1 5v1 followed by 1 5v4 is significantly higher than your percentage chance to win 1 5v5 fight. So you're almost dividing and conquering. And if you stagger respawns, especially towards the end part of a round, that's a great way to ensure a high fight win percentage. This is a huge game sense thing that players at the skill ceiling of the game often use to create wins. Like, this is how you win. It's a big, big, big part of the game. And on games like Clash, games like Koth, like this feature, and like a 7 to 8% reduction in one-sided matches, and then a 4 to 5% in competitive during an MMR reset, soft reset, is a massive swing. And so what this is telling you is that it's an incredibly powerful feature that is bailing players out and giving them a free chance to get back into the game. The reason why so many one-sided matches have started happening in Overwatch 2 is because of the format, right? It's especially when your super tank is getting gapped, it's almost impossible for other players to overcome that deficit, in my opinion. That's what I think is happening. You didn't see this many one-sided matches in Overwatch 1 because there was less emphasis on a single player. And now, the answer to that, coming in wave respawns, like, that's not actually making the core gameplay better. That's just the game bailing out bad players who are making mistakes. I don't want to say bad players. They're bailing players out who are making bad decisions and staggering. And you're removing the reward for a player properly staggering somebody, right? You're just removing the punishment. You're dumbing down the game. So yeah, we've seen this 7 to 8% reduction in quick play and this 4 to 5% reduction in competitive, but it's not happening because the game somehow became better. It's happening because you removed the punishment of somebody dying in a bad time. And so you've stopped the reward for making the correct play, and you're essentially removing the punishment from someone making the incorrect play. Now, to some degree, I can see this feature being healthy in the game, maybe. I'm not 100% sold, but the more I've played against it, the less I've liked it, because I see how it's giving teams who are losing extra fights. Like, you're just giving them an extra chance for free. They're not actually playing the game better, right? And if you want to give players a chance, they should have to actually do something correct. But instead, they're doing something wrong, or something inoptimal is happening to them that they should get punished for, but you're just saying, oh, you know what, we're going to remove this punishment from the players because games are too one-sided in our format that brought more flaws to the game than it did solutions. And it's like, why are we doing this? So I think in the meantime, I'm not going to sit here and rain on their parade and say, this feature sucks, it never should have been added, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to see it get nerfed. I think the respawn time should only be within like 2 to 3 seconds of somebody else. And then if you're not in that wave, you're on your own. I don't. There have been more times where I've pressed tab and been like, all right, I just got fucked by wave respawn, than I have been like, oh, like, this just saved the game for me. And even when it does save the game for me, I don't think that's how I should be able to get let back in the game. Like, if I'm going to win the game, it should be because I do something right, not because I do something wrong and the game bails me out for free. But unfortunately, this has been a really common theme in Overwatch 2, where, like, I hate to say it, and you can go back and watch the Group Up podcast where we talk about this, where we beat around the bush, where, like, I've just been in people's ear, but, like, they're dumbing down the game. Like, the game is being dumbed down. Like, this is just what is happening. It's the most Activision thing ever, because it's like they want to make the game more approachable for casuals, and getting steamrolled sucks. But, you know, instead of, like, going to the format that you kind of stopped steamrolls, or made steamrolls be less important that was beloved, it's like, okay, we're going to do this new one, and then we're going to add maintaining ult charge. We're going to put all these passives in the game that deny value, that automatically are there for the player, right? It's just the direction this game has done. It's been like watering down a fine wine to make it more accessible at a McDonald's. And it's like, that's not what Overwatch was. You know, Overwatch was a steakhouse. It was a niche, right? And now, because I don't want to say in the name of profits, at least in this case, right? Because, like, wave respawns, like, I do think that, you know, devs like Gavin, like, actually care about their systems and find them interesting. Like, it is an interesting concept. It is. Like, I'm not trying to say it's not. I'm not trying to shit on the idea or be like, they're just doing this to make money. I think they do believe in the idea, and because, like, honestly, I don't think the game's issues or Team 4's issues are the systems people or the art people. It's just the balance team, really. Like, these people have really tried interesting stuff and interesting features that could make the game better. The more I play against wave respawns, though, in particular, I think it's too strong for now. And then if it gets nerfed and tuned down a little bit, I'm down to see that. But a 5 to 10% 5 to 8%, I'm not going to round up, 5 to 8%, let's be fair here, margin in one-sided matches is a massive that's a big margin, right? And it's just being given for all the wrong reasons. These players aren't doing anything right. The game's just bailing them out, and it's taking away the reward from players who have learned how to do this properly and make the correct decisions. And a dumbed-down Overwatch is not a better Overwatch. I personally think the game is at the best when its skill floor is low, its barrier to entry is lower, and its skill ceiling is higher. You want that gap to be as wide as possible so that the journey that players can go along to feel their progression, if you will, or find ways to express their own skill is all the more longer, and it keeps them more engaged. And there's just more to do. Less is not more, right? Less is not more. So, I in hindsight, Wave Respawn's way too good right now. I think they should be nerfed. Players should not get additional fights for free. It's just... Look, I don't want to be called a doomer and just say it's a bad mechanic, but I kind of do think it's a bad mechanic. I'm heavily leaning towards this is a bad mechanic, and it's trying to solve one-sided matches in the complete wrong way. Like if the matches are so one-sided because the power between the roles is insanely wide. There's too much power on the tank, and if there is a tank deficit, it is so hard to overcome because there's just way too much performance impact on one player in this game compared to Overwatch 1, where there were way more organic ways to turn fights. Abilities were all weaker. There was more opportunity and more player agency in the old format compared to this one. I would much rather see them try to go back to the old format first before they try this thing to stop one-sided matches and allow the game to not be dictated so much by what your tank is on. Really. There's just too much power on that player. And when they're on the wrong pick, it's going to create more steamrolls in both directions. And that is what has happened in Overwatch 2. Wave Respawns do not solve that. They just bail out bad players from being punished. Sorry. They bail out players, not necessarily bad players, who make bad decisions from being punished from their mistakes, and it takes the reward away, an opportunity away to potentially spawn camp somebody, stagger somebody even more. It just took away opportunity from players. It didn't actually add anything to the gameplay loop, and that's why I don't think where it's at right now is a healthy solution. I think it could be better. Before I say it shouldn't be in the game altogether, I'd like to see it get nerfed slightly to like a 3-second gap instead of a 6-second gap, because 6 is just too long. You're rewarding players too much. If somebody dies like 5 or 6 seconds later, like they should not spawn in the same wave. They just shouldn't. They just should not. I'm gonna get irritated, so I'm gonna stop talking right now. But what are your thoughts on Wave Respawn? Do you guys think it was a good addition to the game? Do you think it's helping the game, or do you think that it's kind of bad? I do think it needs to get nerfed. I'm willing to see what happens after it gets nerfed, but I think they're trying to solve one-sided matches in the wrong way, and it's not better for the ceiling of the game, in my opinion. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care. Peace out. See y'all later.